This episode of the New Hampshire Business Show is sponsored by Everlasting Capital. If you're a small business and you need money and a bank won't give it to you, Everlasting Capital is here to help. In as quickly as a couple of days, you can have the funding your business needs for new equipment or anything else you're going to need the capital for. So submit your application today and see how they can help you out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the New Hampshire Business Show. My name is Chris Pastrana, and today we're here with Lisa Arnold of Lisa Arnold Photography. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So let's get started. Tell me about yourself and the business.
I am obviously a photographer. I have a studio. It's about an hour west of here in a little tiny village called Harrisville. So it's just outside of Keene. And I've been photographing people for years. And like most photographers, I did the wedding scene first.
Yeah.
But then I've really grown to love portraiture.
Okay.
So that's my focus, particularly women. I photograph women. You might not realize this being a man, but most women have a hard time with what they see as flaws.
Okay.
So I get to show them what everybody else sees, which is not the flaws.
Okay.
So it's beautiful. It's really a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And I get to be a part of it. So I cherish that. And so I've been doing that for a while, but just moved back to New Hampshire a few years ago. And of course had to rebuild my clientele because I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And I was kind of a reluctant networker. I did not want to do that, but I realized I had to do something because traditional advertising has never worked for me, ever.
Yeah.
So I looked around and I found a network group called Women to Women. That one was out of Peterborough and they met monthly. So I decided to just bite the bullet and go. I didn't really want to. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of networking. I told myself it wouldn't work, but really I was just nervous. But I went anyway, and it was great. And I met some really, really productive people who were excellent businesswomen. And so I worked with them for a while. But as a wedding photographer, I had done the wedding expos and all of that. And I realized that there was some benefit to getting face-to-face with people, but hated the wedding expos. It really kind of felt like the box store of weddings.
Yeah.
You know, like the women are just herded up one aisle and down the other, and they were just looking for what was cheap, and I wasn't cheap, so it just never worked for me. But I did go to one wedding expo, and it was like a cocktail party. So it was great because it was just people talking to each other, and it was really cool. So in working with these women, this women-to-women network group, I thought, well, I should probably find out if they do something like that. Well, they didn't. But I found someone else who did. And it wasn't for the wedding scene. It was just to mingle. It was like ladies' night out or something.
Yeah.
And it was $500 to rent a booth, which is typical. But I was like, what for what? What do I get from this? Because I've never had success with it before.
Yeah.
And they said, well, it's for exposure. It's for exposure. So that's how we promotion and advertisement. So I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. The reason I don't do traditional advertisement is it doesn't work. So I'm going to give you $500 in hopes that traditional advertisement will now work for the client base I want. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. So instead, we had our own little cocktail party. I got some of the women I was networking with, and I have a small studio, and we just got together. And the requirement was each of us need to bring some wine and something to eat to share. And we need to each invite 2 of our clients or friends or family members and have them come with a friend. So then we just suddenly were no longer business to business. We were businesses sharing our clients with each other.
Yeah.
And it became this referral. It was great. It was really good. We all got referrals out of it. We all got work out of it. We didn't sign anything that night, but we made relationships.
Yeah.
Which, as a small business, I'm sure you know, that's like everything. You have to make connections with people.
Yeah. Well, my
that's
whole
what we
business is designed around relationships.
Exactly. And isn't it true of all small businesses that that's really all it is? Because most of us don't have the big bucks for the advertisement to work. We just don't. And so it was perfect. So I kind of filed that away. Like, okay, I need to learn from this somehow. But in that, back to the network group, I met a woman named Isis Latham. She'll be coming to you, I'm sure. She's a very strong businesswoman.
Yeah.
And I was helping her with her personal branding, her headshots and that sort of thing. And she and her husband had just started another network group. And that's called the Monadnock Business Network Group in Keene.
Okay.
So now I'm part of 2 network groups, both free. So they're not against BNI at all. But they recognize that there are so many businesses who, starting up, just don't have the money for a BNI. And so they wanted something that was accessible to everybody. So I'm working with all of them, and I thought, this is great. It would be so cool if all of the businesses in the area could be a part of something like this. But obviously we can't all fit in one room.
Yeah.
That would be stupid. So I designed an online directory just for that, so that we could all have this digital referral hub to work with. So it started off just so businesses could find each other. But then I remembered the little event that I had in my studio, how bringing in our clientele really, really expanded our base. So that is what the directory is for now. The directory is meant for businesses to share their clients with other businesses. And it's been really cool. It's still small, and it's going to grow slowly because so far it's just me. But it's been really, really productive. So I've been able to marry my love for photography, for my respect and appreciation for the networking and the genuine referrals that we get with working with businesses.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's
Yeah.
been really interesting. And I'm planning to have it grow more and more and more, which is why when you offered this opportunity to talk, I thought, yeah, I would love to just continue to meet more and more businesses. Because as a photographer, like I said, I love doing the portraiture,
Yeah.
but I appreciate the opportunity to work with businesses too, because they need a brand and they don't always know what that brand should be. And sometimes together we can create that brand, or they already have a vision, but I can help them bring it to fruition.
Yeah.
So just the continuation of from start to finish to the directory has been really, really great, and put me in front of so many businesses I wouldn't have otherwise met.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a good approach to it.
Yeah, it's been helpful. It's been great. So I
Yeah.
just have a little website, and everybody gets to use it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's jump off topic a little bit here.
Yeah.
What got you into photography back when you first
Way back
started?
when?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I had a camera. Honestly, I think it's like a lot of photographers. I just loved it. I love photography. And like most photographers, your friends say, oh, you can shoot my wedding for exposure, which means for free. So can you do my wedding? And then you can build your portfolio, is what they would say.
Yeah.
So I did. And then I moved down to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is just a big tourist beach.
Yeah.
So people would go there to get married. So it just grew and grew. But my love for the weddings kind of waned a little bit,
Yeah.
but my love for working with people didn't.
Mhm.
So being able to work with just families or just one person and to show them who they are it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it is.
And because I've spoken to some photographers before,
Yeah.
and weddings always comes up.
Yep.
They make good money.
Yep.
And it's like the one venue where they kind of expect they're going to have to pay money for
Yes.
these big things.
Yeah.
And then you move out of that, and everything else, they're like, can I get it super cheap?
It
you're
is
like,
true.
you're like, come on, guys.
It is so true. It's almost like we have to create the need, or we have to give them permission to want the need, because people want pictures of their children.
Yeah. Well, we need to remind people that these things cost money. Like,
Yeah.
I won't get into this on this podcast, but I'm gonna have to write that down because there's something I want to talk about there.
Oh no, I'm
but,
interested. Yeah.
But there's again, like, there's this small businesses do have a really hard time understanding that they're salespeople. You know, the small
Yes.
business is a salesperson.
Yes.
So you gotta talk up your prices. You gotta stop talking them down, because then everyone talks them down and prices just flat.
You are not wrong.
So,
It's true. Yep.
and the wedding venue, they don't do that because you have other industries that talk up their prices.
Right.
And we kind of just, tag along to it.
Right.
So
Right.
there's my little 2 cents on that one.
No, I agree. And I think the advent of shoot and burn, and of course everybody's walking around with a camera in their pocket,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that they can create the things that photographers can create.
Yeah.
Some can, and I don't mean to dog that, but really what we're doing is creating a legacy. We're not creating snapshots
Yeah.
of your kids playing. We are creating something. And as I said, working with women to create something that their children will have, that will outlive them.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kinds of portraits that I create. They're beautiful images of these women.
Yeah.
And I think every woman should do it.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. And families too. Or I just did mothers and daughters the other day. And as I was watching them interact, I thought, they get to see proof. They have proof of this experience they're having right now, forever. And they
Yeah.
get to pass it along. It's an emotional thing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's worth money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
And when you actually have time to sit down and explain it, it makes sense, right?
Yes.
And then sometimes they have a little sticker shock beforehand, but you got to be like, no, it makes sense.
It does. And that's why the face-to-face, that's why I was saying traditional advertising. I would spend thousands of dollars for full print ads in wedding magazines, but the picture itself doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
It's such an intimate position to be in, to photograph someone.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know that you really are invested in them.
Yeah.
And that has to come across. That's one thing I would recommend for anyone if you're hiring a photographer. Feel like they want this for you. Not just they want your check.
Yeah.
They really want you to have this experience.
Yeah.
And it will be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's my thought.
So, how do you go about? This is one of my favorite questions. The creativity portion of it. Weddings, I've seen just kind of across the board. There's kind of a certain set number of pictures that everyone wants.
Right.
They're kind of the same almost.
Yes, yes they are.
But when you get into this type of thing, you can really play with it. Like you're saying, you're getting rid of some of the flaws, or not getting rid of them, but making them not even realize they're there or whatever.
That's
However you
right.
word it. So there's much more creativity to it.
Yeah.
Is there a process for you, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, there is. There's
Yeah.
talking with them to begin with,
Yeah.
long before we even shoot together. Finding out who they are, what's important to them, what they feel are their strengths and weaknesses, and then just talking through it. It is different with men. And I don't mean to be sexist, but with women, there is just such a sensitivity to that. The expectations of beauty and perfection are pretty high.
Yeah.
And so just talking to them, and then through that interaction being able to create a setting and a scene. And I don't mean backgrounds and all of that. I mean just a feeling, an
Yeah.
environment where they can feel like themselves. And then just creating it. It's really an interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the camera is just the means of capturing those interactions. But there is creativity. I don't mean to suggest that they're snapshots. Like I said, we're not doing that. But it really is getting them out.
Yeah.
I want them to see who they are.
Yeah. And this is, again, going back to the reason we pay for these services is, like you said, you can take great pictures with a smartphone.
Yep.
I've never seen a great quality selfie that came out,
Right.
you know,
Right.
super, super great.
Right.
Even when someone does it for you, they can look amateurish. And what you're paying for is that, like you said, that extra level, the talent of the photographer. So you need to take that into, I guess, into the equation when you're looking for services.
Thank you for saying that. It's true. And the experience,
Yeah.
it really has to be about the person that's being photographed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I leave all of my stuff at the door. It has nothing to do with me. And I don't mean that we're lying to them. I mean, it's just totally about them because of the insecurities they're facing. We just try to make it so they can just feel like themselves.
Yeah.
And to watch them come in to the studio, terrified sometimes, honestly, and then leave like a strong, confident person. It's just a beautiful transformation.
Yeah. Give them a little bit of confidence, you know.
Yeah.
Then they can see that picture and they're like, okay,
Exactly.
I know I can look good. It's possible.
Right, because they do all the time. They
Yeah.
just don't know it.
Yeah.
When they look in the mirror, they just see what they don't like.
Yeah.
But I get to show them what's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's an honor. It really is.
Yeah.
I don't take it lightly. It's an amazing privilege to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Here, what was I say? So you're out by Keene, portraits. So what other type of stuff you do? I know you do the weddings. You said you do a little bit of business stuff, some portraits.
Yep. I actually don't do weddings anymore. I will
Okay.
do weddings for the right client, but I'm not cheap. And honestly, if weddings aren't, if photos aren't important to them, they don't need me.
Yeah.
So I don't spend a lot of time at receptions because everybody else is getting the snapshots. They don't
Yeah.
need to be paying me. It's really the one-on-one, the personal things. But that did lead me into the businesses because I was working with networks. So I do a lot of personal branding, which would include very untraditional headshots.
Yeah.
Same thing. It should reflect who the person is. I'm not even a big believer that it should reflect their business. I think it's hard to do that. Like, how do you reflect that I am a realtor? You know, but people should be able to see your photo and have some idea of who you are, your character. That's what I try to create, is a portrait that captures who that person is, so that when the person's seeing that image, they have an idea what this is going to be. That, to me, is more important.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do you have any tips for businesses on that? Because that's a tricky one.
Talk to the photographer. Be
Yeah.
very open. Yep. And if they don't know what they want, say, I don't know what I want, but don't let the photographer walk away with, okay, then we'll just do this. No. You're hiring them because you want to be seen. That's a question I ask all of my clients. How do you want to be seen? And that's a huge question. And it usually kind of stumps them a little bit because we don't think about it. And I don't mean how do you want to be looked at, but seen. So do you want to be seen as a serious person, as a warm, approachable person? That can all be created in a portrait. But I need to know.
Yeah.
And I can't just assume based on whatever your profession is. So that would be my suggestion, is make sure you're hiring a photographer who cares about how you want to be seen, how you want to be projected. It shouldn't be just the same thing every single time. You mentioned weddings.
Yeah.
You said that it's pretty much the same across the board.
Yeah.
Should it be? That doesn't make any sense. Like,
Well, I'm gonna guess it probably happens because photographers know what looks good. They know kind of what's traditional.
Yeah.
So they'll direct the people who've never done it before, the bride and groom.
to some extent.
Yeah.
But isn't it sad when you see those weddings? I lived in St. Louis for a while, and there were certain spots that people would have their pictures done, all the wedding
Yeah.
party. And I would watch and I think, you could just cut and paste other people's heads on these pictures. It would be the exact same picture. There's
Yeah.
nothing personal about that.
Yeah.
And I've seen that with branding. It's the exact same pose, just a different person's face on it.
Yeah.
And it just seems, I don't find that to be attractive. So I don't think I'm alone when I say that. I
Yeah.
think if somebody is looking for a business, especially a small business, why do we deal with small businesses except that we want that sort of connection? We want the integrity that we expect with a small business. Well, those things should show. Your character should show in your images, and it's very possible to do, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
Do you? Oh, good.
Of course I agree. Because again, it all comes back to the reason I started the show. Like I think the last time I heard, there's at least 6,000 realtors in New Hampshire, minimum.
Really?
Right. And there's probably more.
Wow.
That number's always growing, falling, whatever.
Okay.
About 6,000. Each one of them has their own story. Each
Okay.
one of them describes themselves as a realtor, and they tell me the market's doing great, fantastic. We're at a 30-year low, great. We have 30-day inventory, fantastic. I don't care. Like, it sounds harsh,
Yeah.
but tell me why you got into real estate.
Exactly.
Tell me, your father was a realtor or investor, so you were around it your entire life.
Right.
Tell me something. Tell me, like, you've always loved houses. You thought
Right.
your house was haunted, so you wanted to learn something.
Right.
There's so much more
Oh,
to
that's
your
good.
business.
It is true.
And people don't express that in their marketing at all.
Right.
And so I bring them on the show and I help coach them a little bit.
That's so good. And it's a fine line because my clients don't really care about my personal life, but they have to know enough about me to know that I'm genuinely interested in their personal life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that they do talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then I also do videos and things like that for their branding. But it can be caught in a portrait. It really can. It can
Yeah.
be. It takes time, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Yes.
So people that want to learn a little more from you, get in touch with you. How do they find you?
My website's easy. LisaArnoldPhotography.com.
Okay.
That's it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And really, thanks for doing this. It's such a generous thing that you're offering businesses.
Absolutely. Everyone's welcome.
I'll be sending as many as I can.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank
so
you so much.
Thank
Thank you guys so much for listening. Everyone have a great day.